Okay, so just attempting to take this apart. This is the new tie rod. You can see here, this is the washer. This is what actually, when the locking device is activated here, and of course that's through the locking motor itself. What it does is it pulls on the cable, and that's for the mechanically operated caliper that sits on a parallelogram, so to prevent the vehicle from tilting or falling over. At the same time that that's being turned by the electric motor through the pinion, of course, and in the back here, and of course our potentiometer to monitor all that. So at the same time it's doing this, it's pushing this tie rod here to the master cylinder for the hydraulic pressure for each suspension, so that the suspension becomes rigid. So you can see that when it does rotate, it does have a certain amount of movement. It must have a certain amount of flexibility, and on the older versions, this little ball piece here would get caught on the washer, and of course over time would end up snapping the older versions. So this is the newer version that can be applied onto the older master cylinders. And the difference in the older master cylinders was the older ones where these weren't slotted on the older ones, and the newer ones, of course, they are. And there's an amount of course, you can see here, an adjustment that you can make, and a set screw. So what we're going to do is just go ahead and take this apart. I've already loosened this portion up here a little bit, because I'm going to try to see if I can extract this, but you can see here that there's a little spring in there. There's this little pin that holds it, and a little clip here on the other side. We're going to move that clip, and that pin should fall out. Of course, everything will come apart as one assembly, and we'll see just all the parts is what I mostly want to concentrate on. That way we can see the different parts involved. So let me see if I can get this E-clip out. Okay, so that's been removed. Don't lose that. And then we should be able to pop this out from the other side. Okay, and also don't lose any of these parts, are very tiny. We slide that right on out, so that way you get a good idea what that all looks like. There's a spring, and that can also, might take a little bit of, well, it's not really to be extracted. As you can see here, what you're going to see is there's a clip here and there's a washer at the bottom. So this is actually preventing the spring from shooting off and getting lost. So we'll have to actually remove this clip here, which will allow us to extract the spring, the washer, but it really shouldn't be necessary actually, because if you're just replacing the tie rod, you're going to get the new assembly, and of course that will be installed. You'll have to compress the spring here, you know, compress everything downwards, and get your pin, get your pin down in. So compressing the spring, sliding this on over, sliding our pin in, and you know, basically putting our E-clip back in and whatnot. It really probably isn't necessary to loosen any of this up, but I was just going to take it apart as an exercise just to kind of see the overall length of it and to take some measurements. So that's just basically the operation you see there, and there's a procedure, there's a guide on the parts and everything that this can be replaced. So this is just to talk about this tie rod.